What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. I'm Arris Quinones with Tim Conley, as always. How you doing, Tim?
I am doing wonderful. Greetings, Variant Nation. How's everybody doing out there in the wild, wild world? It's been another week has passed, Arris. How was your week?
Another week. Well, tomorrow, as you know, I'm getting 1 to 2 of my wisdom teeth pulled, depending on how the X-rays look. So that's fun.
You're getting some stuff ripped out of your face.
I am so excited. Can I tell you? The one thing that non-sarcastically I am excited about is that they're knocking me the freak out. I'm like, I don't need to be up for this. I don't need to be up while you literally take your medical pliers and rip like freaking bone from my jaw. I'm good.
Well, you just got to tell me that you're going to have somebody there that can videotape you slowly coming out of your stupor in a groggy state so that I can hear you talk about your alien experiences in other galaxies.
I'm sure my wife will be all over that. What's funny enough, the thing I'm most like annoyed about is the fact that I'm probably not going to be able to eat like solid food for like they say 3 to 5 days, meaning I'm just going to be in a perpetual state of hangry. Like, because I'm only like yogurt, pudding, like anything like that. Nothing tough. So.
And I can attest. You do get you some hangry, man.
Dude. So
this is not a guy that you want to be around when he starts getting hungry. Dude, he loses all sense of himself.
So like I'm warning people now, like for episodes we shoot next week, if I'm still, not able to eat solid foods, you're not going to see happy, spriteful Arris. Like, suck, guys. I haven't eaten anything in a freaking week.
Yeah. Well, at least you'll feel lighter. So there's that.
Yeah, I'm curious. You've had your wisdom teeth taken out, and your daughter's had them taken out.
Yeah. But I didn't get knocked out though. I went in like a freaking savage. I was like, I don't want to spend the money. Just rip them out. Just give me some laughing gas. I was in there listening to the bone chipping. They went in there with a grinding saw.
God,
it was remarkable.
I
was listening. I could smell the smoke. I was like, yeah, this is what it's like to be alive.
Ugh, no, you sadomasochist. But your daughter's actually using the same people that I'm using, so she got knocked out, right?
Yeah, she got knocked out.
How was her recovery? I think she got all 4 taken out, right?
Man, this is bad. I should know this like right off the top of my head. I think she got either all 4 or 3.
Okay, well. Point I'm getting at is, what was her experience like, and how long did she go without being able to eat solid food?
She did great, man. She handled it like a champ. She was like just the rest of the day she rested, and I think she ate pretty light for like 2 days maybe. But by the 3rd or 4th day, she started eating, more food. And then I think she went a full week before she ate normal, like fully normally. You have to, because you got these giant gaping wounds in your face.
You got stitches. Yeah. They told me that like the first 2 to 3 days, nothing but like yogurt, pudding, soft food. And then by the 3rd or 4th, they want me eating like soft stuff, like pancakes, mashed potatoes. So I think it is going to be like a week before I'm like, chowing down on some like fried chicken or something like that.
Yeah, no wings for you for a little bit, man.
Yeah, either way, I'm super excited as you, and I'm sure everyone could tell who's listening. The last time I got knocked out, like put under, was when I had my tonsils taken out when I was like 8 or 10 years old. So, and I remember that being like, it's just trippy, right? Because you're up for everything. Obviously, they put the IV in your arm, and then they're like, okay, here we go. And then you're probably like, it works almost instantly. Like if I remember correctly, they said like count backwards like from 10, and then you don't even get to 1. You're just like. You just remember, last thing you remember is being like 5, 4, and then they're bringing you, you're coming too. I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, and then you're on the shores of Asgard, yeah.
Dude, freaking weird.
I think it is, man. It's a trippy experience, because I've only been knocked out once too, and it was also for surgery. I had knee surgery many years ago, but that was the only other time. There was one other time it felt like I got knocked the freak out while playing football, but that wasn't the same thing.
That's the thing that's like annoying to me. Like when I got a call yesterday to confirm my appointment and stuff like that, and the nurse used the term like surgery, and I'm like, it is, because you're getting put under. I'm getting put under, so I'm like, it technically is a surgery, huh? Because when you go to the dentist and stuff, at least me, I don't like surgery. Like for me, surgery is like, going in and they're, cutting you open, and I mean, they're cutting you open your mouth, but like knee surgery, heart surgery, whatever. I don't necessarily associate like anything from the dentist as surgery, but it definitely is. So when she made that connection, I'm like, it is surgery, isn't it? That's fun.
It sure is. And I did the other thing that kept me from wanting to get knocked out when I had my wisdom teeth taken out is I have this weird thing where I just imagine at a dentist's office specifically when you get knocked out, just like you're in the most vulnerable state. It's like who knows what things, horrible or stupid things they could do to you while you're under anesthesia.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
just
man.
Getting selfies with you wearing, just marking up your face, putting Groucho Marx glasses on you or something.
I'm totally nervous. Like, I won't remember it, so I guess it doesn't matter. But I have a feeling like I'm going to be snoring.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, I'm sure the doctors are used to it because, but that's got to be so embarrassing. Like, because you're knocked out because it's going to take like an hour, right? Depending on what they have to do. So you're just like...
You're just in there like a freaking wild bear.
Dude, like I don't even know how, dentists and stuff deal with this kind of stuff. They literally see people at their worst.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, I like totally don't want to do it, but I told you that like every few months my left bottom wisdom tooth every now and then would just start hurting randomly for like a week. And this last time, like about 2 weeks ago, it started hurting really like the worst it ever has for almost 2 weeks straight, where I was literally like popping ibuprofen for like almost a week straight because my whole jaw was sore. Like it just was tender. I couldn't eat on that side. And then 2 weeks later, it just went away. Like it's like currently right now, it's completely normal. Like nothing ever happened, but like it's happened before. And that was the worst it ever felt. So I'm scared that if I wait another 2 or 3 months, it's going to be even worse. And then that pain might not go away or might get infected. And then it's just going to be worse for me. So I'm like,
that's exactly what I said to you when you told me about the pain. I was like, dude, if you don't get those things pulled out of your face, it's going to get worse.
Yeah. I'm just like biting the bullet.
Because that's my wife is dealing with the same thing right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, she has 2.
I wasn't aware because like I thought once you hit like your late 20s, like if your wisdom teeth, if you haven't gotten the pulled, you're like good. I wasn't aware that like, oh no, you can get them out in like your early 30s, your mid, even like your 40s.
Apparently, the longer you go, the harder it is. So like the older you are and the more they're kind of just been baking in there, the harder it is to get them removed because it increases the chances of you getting like nerve damage or something. This is what I say this because my wife actually just went to the dentist and this is what they told her. So they were just like, you can get them taken out, but the likelihood there's a little more risk the older that you get, I guess, because it gets into the root and the bone and all that kind of stuff a little bit more.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
So the sooner the better is what you're saying.
Is she getting them out then, or what is she doing?
She doesn't want to do it because
she doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't want to do it because she was saying that they're not bothering her as much. It's not bothering her like it is for you, but it was bothering her a little bit. But then I guess it was another tooth it was rubbing up against. So they're trying to figure out, but because the dentist said like, oh no, you have enough room for the teeth, but I don't know. She's figuring it out. I'm just like, hey, get them out if they need to come out. And then she's like, I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it either, but it's hurting me. And it's one of those things where I don't want to think about it anymore. You know what I mean? Because my top 2 are in, like they've been in for like ever. Like they are fully in, like it's just the bottom 2. But this is probably boring everyone. I like how we're talking about teeth, like one of the most grossest things we can talk about because teeth are not.
This is what's happening in our life right now.
Well, now they know a little bit more about
it's our show, doggone it.
Yeah. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going under. I'm getting my teeth pulled, and next week you guys will get a story of how it went. So there we go.
I want video. I don't want a story. I want video. That's what I want. I want you on video talking about I'm Batman.
Oh, God. I'm nervous, dude. I'm wondering, like, am I going to be able to like do host voice? You know what I mean? Because it's like, is my mouth still going to be sore? Like, I'm curious.
It doesn't matter to me. That's what you get paid for, man. All right. That's what you just get up there and just gum through it.
Hey, what's up, guys? Because
that'll be entertaining for the rest of us.
Today, we're talking about the new James the Tiny Batman book.
Hey, everybody. It's me,
how you doing?
your old pal, Arris.
I'm just drooling out of the side of my mouth.
Can't even keep saliva in.
Oh, man. Anyway. Let's start talking about comics.
comics, and some Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We actually we only talked about the first couple of episodes, right? Have we talked about?
No, we're current.
No, we talked about the first one. We haven't talked about the second and the third one.
Did we not talk about the second one?
No, because we skipped. Remember, we skipped a week because we were like, let's take a break from television. And let's
talk. That's right.
Let's just talk some latest comics and whatever else we felt like that day because we had been just talking nonstop Snyder Cut and Disney Plus series.
So we got episode 2 and 3 to talk about then, huh?
That's right. So we left off at the slow beginning. It was good, but it was slower than we both thought. And then we've had two more episodes since then, and it's gotten better.
It has gotten better, although we're halfway through the series now, 3 episodes, and it's six episodes. I like the series, but I was telling you this. For me, it's missing that spark. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I like it. Mm-hmm. It's good. I would never say it's bad or I don't like it. I'm having fun watching it, but it doesn't have like that. Oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like that thing to entice me, like with WandaVision or any other good series where every week I'm like, oh, I want to see what happens. Oh, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like. I don't know. I don't feel as invested as I have with other Disney Plus series or like WandaVision, Mandalorian, or things, of this nature for whatever reason. And I'm wondering what it is because the action is awesome. It's the same quality and budget as the MCU. It's the same characters. Like I love the interaction between obviously Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Their whole buddy thing is awesome and hilarious. But it's I'm wondering if it's the villain for me, like the Flag Smashers and stuff. I don't know. As of episode 3, as they keep explaining more on what they're trying to do and stuff and, making super soldiers and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, cool. But for some reason, I don't care that much, and I can't peg why. Because it's cool. You're making, they got the super soldier serum. They're making a bunch of super soldiers. It's following that, I forget her name, but that lead girl, she's kind of leading them in and they're hiding from everyone and stuff like that. I'm like, I can't, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Baron Zemo was reintroduced, should I say, in the 3rd episode. He was really cool, obviously.
Excellent, yeah.
I find myself liking, what is it? U.S. Agent, even though he's not U.S. Agent yet. The new Captain America in this and Zemo's story a lot more than the main villain. And I think that's where it's falling off for me as I'm talking this out because, the new Captain America and Zemo, while they're, big, narratives in the story, they're not necessarily the main narrative. And I think that's where it's falling off for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will agree with you for sure. There is that there's this weird, because unlike WandaVision, as you said, WandaVision, it was the same type of a thing, right? It took 3 episodes for me to really, I was like, where are we going? For the first 3 episodes. It wasn't until the end of the 3rd episode that it started to shift. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. And this is going to be good. But this one is the same thing. It, in a way, it was 2 episodes where it was a little bit slower. Like the first one had a great opening sequence. And then the rest of the episode was a lot of setup. And then the second episode was good, but it was also, a lot of setup. It was kind of slow, had a couple of cool action beats. The 3rd episode, I absolutely loved. So for me, but the difference between the 2 series is that WandaVision was 9 episodes. This is only 6. And each of the episodes are a little bit longer. So, it's actually ends up being more content with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier than with WandaVision overall. But I do see what you're saying. And I do agree with you. The lack of understanding of who is the villain here. Because we're into, you've got the Flag Smashers, but we also know we were told that the Power Broker is being introduced at the end of the 2nd episode, and then the 3rd he was mentioned and referenced throughout the 3rd episode. So the Power Broker is here. He's involved. He's like this really dreaded, feared figure that's kind of looming in the background still, but they haven't introduced him. And you're still kind of unsure of okay, who's the full bad guy? Because Zemo, he's a villain, obviously, right? He has villainous intention, but it's a little bit Thanos-ish in the sense of he thinks he's doing what needs to be done. Right. So, but he's clearly a villain, but he's working with them. So it's not the villain. So there's still a lot of, and with only 3 episodes left, it doesn't give us a lot of time to really sink into anything. So that is kind of And I think the character that you were referencing and talking about before is the Carly Morgenthau.
Right.
Is that who you? Okay.
Yes.
So having said that, the series is bringing us some really cool moments. The interaction between Bucky and Sam are just really, really good. I mean, they just picked up right where they left off.
It's hilarious
in the MCU. Really funny. Really, really good. You've got a lot of other characters are in there that have stepped in. In addition to Baron Zemo, you've got a lot of other cool things that have been introduced into the MCU, like Madripoor. That's a major fictional location in Marvel Comics history that we've never seen, and that has now been introduced into the MCU. So those are all cool things, but there is a lot of things. Oh, and of course, there was one major thing at the end of episode 3 that was like, yes,
yeah.
But because we haven't said it, I want to say, like, if you have not seen this series, this is a late spoiler warning. We haven't said anything spoilery yet, per se.
Yeah.
We're going to talk freely. So at this point, if you don't want to hear spoilers, abandon ship.
Right. I mean, they have introduced a lot of cool things in the show. My favorite was probably from episode 2 when Bucky reveals to Sam that there is another super soldier, Isaiah Bradley, which that was like a deep cut for me. I'm like, no, it was one of those things that was so big obvious time. Once they did it, but I didn't think about it. I'm like, of course you're going to introduce Isaiah Bradley, who, those who don't know, is the Black Captain America from the comic books. So I was like, of course you're going to freaking, like, it just makes all the sense in the world. I'm just hoping we get flashbacks of him as like Captain America, or at least, showing off his super soldier strength and stuff, because they referenced it. He was around back then with Bucky and stuff. He's older now. So that's like such a cool, like, little insertion for diehard comic book fans, that it's like, oh, okay, well, it's cool. It's going to be cool, even if it's just a little, like, tip of the hat, but it's also like, come on. This is like a whole series dedicated to these characters. Give us a little more. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they did it so early on. I would hope, at least. You never know what the MCU is going to do. I think WandaVision definitely proved that. But I would hope at least that they revisit him a little more. Maybe even now that he's older, he helps them out towards the end. Since they are fighting several super soldiers now, and he himself is a super soldier.
Right.
So right. I'm wondering if maybe there'll be some sort of like triple threat team up towards the end of the series. But that was dope. And let's not forget, the thing that made the internet go crazy. I'm kind of jumping around here, but episode 3, Zemo dancing. Zemo freaking did. Have you heard about this? How this is like literally Marvel's official YouTube page just uploaded today, actually, an hour-long video on loop of Zemo dancing in the nightclub in episode 3.
It.
Dude, it's like that 20-second clip on loop with techno music on Marvel's official channel. It's literally titled Zemo dancing for an hour. Like and it's on Marvel's official YouTube. So that's like, it's so funny how you can never kind of really catch what's going to go viral. But I remember the day that thing, like that episode aired, I was seeing memes and gifs of like him doing that little like shuffle in the nightclub, because it's hilarious. It's Baron Zemo like it's dancing. Really funny, of course that's funny. Like he's a Baron and he's, rocking like it's 1999.
And he's like, the guy who plays Zemo is perfect for that. So if he just fits that little shtick perfectly.
Yeah. Which that was really one of my favorite scenes thus far. The whole because I think we might have said, I don't know if we said this on on the mic or off the mic, but I know we talked about it one way or another. Where now, I think we talked about it in the first episode. I don't know. We've talked about it. We're going to talk about it now. Where Falcon and Winter Soldier are teaming up with Baron Zemo, because that's what happened, right? They went to break him out. And I like this, how they're teaming up. And so far, Zemo has had chances to escape and go on the run and not work with them, but he hasn't.
And
He's actually come.
Yeah.
He didn't. He actually came back in a sports car and picked them up. It's like, let's go, let's do this thing. So I'm really liking that. He's actually working with them and not trying to escape, because his whole thing is he doesn't like super soldiers. If everyone who's seen, what is it, Civil War, right? Yes, Civil War.
Yeah, exactly.
Knows that's his whole shtick. So it's really cool to see him like willing to work with Sam and Bucky, because they have like a common enemy, which is, we don't want any more super soldiers. That's not great. And it's also cool to see like that Zemo knows all of the criminal underworld, which they need to get to, as that's how they're ultimately going to get to the power broker. And because of that, Sam and freaking Bucky have to work with him, and Bucky has to pose as he's still the Winter Soldier, like, and literally do everything Zemo says when they're in certain, crime places, which is really, really, really interesting, and made for some funny moments with Sam's character as he was who was he playing? Black Tiger or something? Some tiger character, right?
Smiling Tiger, which is
hilarious.
Actually a character from Marvel Comics. So they killed a couple of birds with one stone there. They did. They hinted. They gave a little tip of the hat to Snap Wilson. Yeah, with him dressing like a pimp, basically, right? He even says at one point, "I look like a pimp." Yep. Right. So they did a little tip of the hat there, and then they had him portraying Smiling Tiger Conrad Mack, who is a New Warriors villain. Mm-hmm.
I love how too they did a lot of really funny things. This one isn't so much. It's kind of like poking fun of comic books in general. When in the second episode, when Sam is following Bucky to Isaiah's house, there's a kid in the street, a little kid in the street. He's like, "Oh my God, you're Black Falcon." He's like, "It's just Falcon." He's like, "No, my dad said you're Black Falcon." And he's like, "Is it because I'm black?" And he's like, "Does that make you Black Kid?" And it was just really funny where because of the comics, it's so much like, they do stuff like that where it's so on the nose, where it's like, he's Blue Lightning because he's blue. I get it. He's Red Tornado because he's red. I get it. So it was really funny to like do that like with real world, where it's like, do the whole, really? Because I'm black, you're gonna call me Black Falcon? Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Dumb. You know what I mean? So it's really, really, really funny.
Yeah, that I love a lot of the band. That's one of my favorite parts about this series so far is the dialogue, the back and forth between characters, whether it's just in humor, funny banter going back and forth between Sam and Bucky, or little scenes like that, but also even just the interactions between Zemo and Bucky, or Zemo and Sam, just the little nods, how Zemo brings up at one point, he brings up Sokovia, right? And what has become of Sokovia since the Avengers battle with Ultron. They bring up several things like that that are just really like the whole conversation even between Sam and Bucky, where they bring back they go back to referencing the Trouble, not Trouble Man. Yeah, Trouble Man. No, it is Trouble Man. Marvin Gaye's Trouble Man album. Do you remember that conversation between Sam and Steve? Yep. They bring that back up, and they have this whole banter between him, Bucky, and Zemo on the airplane. That's another thing is when Zemo first sees Bucky, and Bucky goes into, and they're breaking him out.
Yeah,
and
I know what you're saying.
When Zemo comes up and he starts reciting the lines that put, or basically set him into his attack mode.
Longing. Rusted 17.
Exactly. Yeah. Like all of those scenes are just really fun, and there's just Easter egg or nods embedded throughout. It's just a lot of fun to watch and listen to.
No, yeah, that's the one thing I love about like the MCU in general, like from the beginning, that I wish DC would have done early on and just kind of get their crap together from the get-go. But is how just everything interweaves, because like people are like, oh, it doesn't have to be like that, but it's like it just works so much better. It just makes things, because like stuff like you said, it's like even if you didn't watch all the movies, but you watched like Civil War or Winter Soldier, and you're just now watching this, you will still get a lot of those references. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you don't even have to have seen all 20 plus of the Marvel films. So it just makes it for a better experience. Kind of like, like when us comic book fans are watching the shows, we're like, like it's Isaiah Bradley. Of course you bring, it's like those aha moments where it's like, yeah, I know that guy. I get that reference. It just makes for a more fun, enjoyable experience. And this show is doing a lot of that.
And at this point, I would say one of the coolest aspects about that, the point that you're making, is that there is, because we now are 10 years into the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic World, they're able to play with both. They're able to pull from Easter eggs and tip of the hats to Marvel Comics, going back all the way throughout its history. but also they're able to pull from their own cinematic lore. So we get both now, which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And it's only because I feel like it's becoming more lately because obviously the more content they create, the more they can pull from. So you see some, I'm sure there's even some like deep pulls that went over both of our heads where I'm sure was a reference to something we didn't even catch because it's like constant. Course, yeah. They're always doing lots of stuff, even if it's just like a sign in the background that was like we saw like I don't know in Age of Ultron or something. You know what I mean? They kind of are pulling like the Pixar thing where Pixar always places and references like Easter eggs in each other's movies, which is really cool. Like you'll see like. What was it? I think in Coco, you see Woody and Buzz hanging in the background, like on a shop or something. And it's just that kind of stuff where it's in the universe, so you could play with it.
Yeah, I love that stuff. But it's like I often see whenever you see those people that go and they actually just dig through episodes or films or whatever and find all that stuff. Yes. I'm like, God Almighty! Unless you're getting paid to do it, who has the time for this? Some of the stuff that these people find, like that are out there, I'm so impressed. It's like, man. You either have an incredible eye or you have a lot of time on your hands. Either way, thank you. You've done us all a service.
Dude, I don't want to go on a tangent, but they finally released a Space Jam trailer and I could go. I could start talking about those Easter eggs, Tim, because there's a lot.
I actually saw it. I saw it last time I did and had not seen anything on it. And I did see this trailer with my kids because they got super excited about it, just like you. So you guys have a lot in common.
That it's probably not going to, be like a tenth as good as the original just because of nostalgia alone, and that's probably mostly why I hold Space Jam so near and dear to my heart.
It looks fun though.
But it does look fun, and there's gonna be lots of cameos. I mean, dude, freaking Pennywise the Clown is in the background because it's a Warner Brothers property.
Him.
Pennywise is in there. The 66 Penguin is in there. The Batman Returns Penguin is in there.
I saw that, yeah.
The Nicholson Joker is in there. Like Flintstones. There's a lot of Warner Brother properties that are in there, which is crazy.
That's really funny. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely gonna see it without any doubt. You kind of have to if you saw the first one. If you grew up with the first one, you kind of have to see it just to see what they do.
It's just Looney Tunes. Like who doesn't like the Looney Tunes anyway, right?
Right.
Which is really cool how they're going to be 2D and then they're going to go into like, the CG Pixar style animation towards the end. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is it's just going to be one of those things. It's kind of like Kong versus Godzilla in a way, right?
Yes.
It's like, that you're not going there for some Oscar-worthy story or performances. It's just going to be fun. It's just turn your brain off and enjoy the entertainment for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yes. Oodles and noodles of fun. I will say, getting back to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So like what happens a lot of times, a toy has been revealed and already spoiled what's going to happen at the end of the series.
No way.
Yeah, it's like, I mean...
don't tell me. I haven't seen it.
I won't, and I'm not. But it's like, I don't even know if you can consider it a spoiler. I mean, technically it's a spoiler because it confirms it, but it's like a no-duh scenario. You know, it's
I think I know what it is. I won't say it out loud, but I think I probably
it's like, obviously. Like, but it just cements it, and you're like, oh, well, without a shadow of a doubt now. But it's like, this is why, like, I always find a way to bring it back to The Mandalorian. But this is why I thought it was so brilliant that, like, Grogu, Baby Yoda, wasn't spoiled at for the first season of The Mandalorian, where they didn't give the toy companies any of the pictures or any information to make the toy, so to spoil it, which was great. And how Filoni and Favreau pulled that off, that was freaking awesome. But this is proof that rarely ever happens. Like, something in Godzilla is spoiled through a toy. Freaking this is spoiled through a toy. Things in just every like big blockbuster movie that gets a toy line, usually there's something big that's spoiled, which is annoying. So I just don't know why they can't hold off. Like, I get, like, they're like, hey kids, look at this cool thing that's at the climax of the movie. Don't you want to buy it? Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like it also kind of ruins the experience. You know what I mean?
We have long discussed that very topic, and that is, for me, I guess that they have to, the companies themselves, they've got to know and be brought in on what's going on with the individual films. So, because they have to produce these things long in advance so that they can come out around the same time. It's the release of the marketing materials way before the films come out or the television shows are released or whatever, that I'm just like, man, that's some stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I have never been a fan of that. I wish they wouldn't do it, because there have been several times where they have spoiled some pretty serious things. Sometimes, to be fair, sometimes they don't do it intentionally. Sometimes it gets leaked.
It does, yeah. With Lego, that happens a lot. Lego stuff leaks a lot. But anyway.
A couple times it's happened with Hot Toys, too.
But we have to, before we move on, we obviously have to talk about the biggest, or one of the biggest, I guess the biggest reveal.
Biggest. There's actually several of them. There's one thing that I want to point out specifically as far as a takeaway that I've noticed. I want to see if you've noticed the same thing.
Well,
but, go ahead.
I was just going to mention the massive cliffhanger at the end of episode 3, where you see Bucky finding these little tracker things, and he's following them through the city to ultimately leads them to a Wakandan warrior, where it's give me Zemo.
Dude, as soon as he started picking up the little sensors, and it was in Wakandan, I was like, no.
So
the
cool.
White Wolf.
So
he sees the breadcrumbs.
He does. I love that he's called the White Wolf. It's so funny.
So good.
But it's okay. So with this, I'm like, where's this gonna go? Are we full on going to Wakanda? Are you are they just gonna introduce several of the warriors? Here that is White Wolf, give him to me. He killed the king's dad, and he needs to be back in prison. So, why you breaking him out? What's going on here? You know what he did. So I'm very curious to see how far that goes. But it also makes me so sad too, because it unfortunately reminds me of the tragedy that happened to King T'Challa himself, which is you know what I mean. But it's gonna be cool to see the Wakanda still thrive in the MCU.
Man, that was one of the biggest things, was that they're already bringing Wakanda back in.
I know.
Because I feel like we've gone too long without seeing some Wakanda. Wakanda, for me, is one of the coolest aspects of the MCU. So,
for sure.
For us to go back, for them to be telling us, hey, we're going back there in some way, that got me all jacked up. Again, just heartbreaking that it will be without Chadwick.
Yes.
Boseman. That still just kind of lingers in the air, just like a black cloud, unfortunately.
It'll randomly make me sad, just because it's just sad. And the fact that, how random it was too. It felt like it, obviously not to him and his loved ones and families, but to, all of his fans, it was just oh man, you know what I mean? It's horrible.
Yeah. And I just saw Anthony Mackie in an interview, and he was again saying, somebody had asked him, he was being interviewed about Falcon Winter Soldier, and somebody asked him do you think that Black Panther will be recast? And he said the same thing we said right off the bat, which is you can't recast that.
Yeah, you can't.
It would just be crazy for them to even consider doing. So it's with him gone, it's like a double whammy. You lose this incredible actor and person so suddenly at such a young age, which is obviously the first and foremost tragedy of the whole thing. But then the other thing, as a fan of his work, especially what he brought to bear as T'Challa, Black Panther, knowing that now is going to be this just giant void is left from the MCU. It's also just man, that sucks. So it's just this really sad element. I mean, again, they're going to do something. We know we're getting a Black Panther 2. It's probably going to be Shuri, which is going to be great.
Shuri, that'll be a good one. She became Black Panther in the comics, so.
But I'm curious to see, are we going to go to Wakanda here?
Well, that's what I was saying, right? And what's the workaround?
Or is it Wakanda going to come to him? I'm leaning towards Wakanda, even though I want to go to Wakanda because I think Wakanda's dope. Wakanda's probably going to come to him, and we might see Shuri in this, maybe.
We might.
Or what is the I just had a brain fart. What is his bodyguard's name? Is his lead guard?
Okoye.
The General Okoye. So we might see her. Either way, any involvement of Wakanda in this series and Wakandans, I'm all for. I think that's just going to be. That's such a cool ad that I did not expect, quite frankly.
Same. That's like you were saying, that is one of the best elements of the MCU, Wakanda, all of its warriors, Black Panther. And I'm wondering if it's going to give us a glimpse of the workaround, right? Are they going to mention King T'Challa? Are they not? Because this is the first time we're seeing, Wakanda in any form, its warriors or actual, homeland after the tragic death of Chadwick Boseman. So I'm very curious to see what's, in what capacity Wakanda and its warriors are going to be introduced in this next episode we have coming up here.
I wonder if they will hint or start the train rolling in any way at hinting at T'Challa's fate.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I wonder if they're going to give hints of where there any, what's the direction going forward? You know what I mean? Like, Are they going to drop a little thing where he's went this way or he gave up the crown? Just something that kind of sets up like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they have to say that T'Challa died. It can't be something like that he just went on a long vacation. You know what I mean? It has to be something. Because if it was a situation where, they use the snap, or they could do that in some way, maybe that would be one thing. But I can't even see how, from just a story perspective and giving that character his due, I can't see how they could even use, something like, Steve going back in time and screwing up timelines to just, erase him in some way. It has to be something where he dies and it allows the characters inside that universe to honor him and to memorialize him within the MCU. You know what I mean? So I'm very curious to see, are they starting that ball rolling inside the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I think that's very possible.
Yeah, very, very possible. And yet again, it's one of those obvious things where it's like, yeah, freaking Wakanda and Black Panther are the ones who saved Bucky and gave him the new arm. Like, that's literally where he got his fancy new arm from. So it should have been one of those things where we're like, well, they could easily appear. He lived there for like a good little while and he's already referenced it like in the first 2 episodes.
Right.
So,
what did Sam call him? The white hope or something? Or
I know. Did he just call him White Wolf? Like, just call him that again?
No, he didn't. And he said it's White Wolf. He corrected him.
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
He called him something else, and he was like, "It's White Wolf."
Dude, what is it from episode 2? Oh my gosh, it's the 3 A's or something like that. The 3 aliens. Oh my gosh, you know what I'm talking about? Dang it, what is it? And Bucky's like, what? And he's like, what are you talking about? And then it gets referenced again later on in the episode.
Yes, it was really funny.
Oh my God.
Aliens.
Monsters. And something else. No. Dang it. I know there's people listening like, it's this. Oh man, I forgot.
It's aliens, assassins, and something.
But it was really wizards, right?
Is it wizards?
Was it wizard or sorcerers? Sorcerers. It was sorcerers. Or something like that.
No, I think you're right. I think he does say wizards, and then he says he's a sorcerer. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
They argue about whether he's a sorcerer or
a wizard, right? Yeah, something like that. I don't know. We could be getting
that whole back and forth was really funny.
Yeah, the point
especially their reasoning for why it's a sorcerer, not a wizard.
So whether we're remembering it right or wrong, the whole point of this is just that whole bit, no matter how really it was said, was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to just like the banter and the dialogue between characters. So it's just really good. It for me, that's one of the most entertaining parts of the series so far.
I loved how matter of fact like Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson was. He's like, you never heard of that?
Oh yeah.
Like, what do you mean? And Bucky's like, no, what are you talking about? That's what it was. Freaking John Walker brings it back up later when they pick him up in the military Jeep. Remember?
Oh, that's
like
right.
He brings it up again, and Bucky's like, ah.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of fun little moments like that.
Like I said at the beginning, the show doesn't have that spark that's pushing it over the edge for me, but there is a lot of entertaining and good stuff coming from it. Again, I like the show. It's just not like, I'm not drooling over it like I am like other shows that I've seen recently.
Without a doubt. I mean, but it has introduced a lot, just like WandaVision did. Mm-hmm. It's already introduced a lot of new things to the MCU. It's already tipped its hat. One of the big things that they added just with Zemo is they introduced the reality that he's a Baron and that he's Sokovian royalty.
And he's
that
extremely
was not
rich.
a thing up until this. Yeah, and we learned that he's super rich. He's got like a private jet. They're like, you've been rich this whole time.
He's like, I'm a Baron.
I'm a Baron. Yeah, of course I'm rich.
I wonder if they're going to I wonder if they're gonna allude. They kind of allude to it already because he, you see his mask in one of his fancy cars. But I wonder if they're gonna full out say or be like, yeah, I'm like the 13th in my line, which would be a direct reference to his lineage in the comic books and his family. So they kind of hinted that obviously his family a little bit, but like I would love for them to directly do something like that where he's like taking over his father's mantle. You know what I mean? Like that would be really cool.
Yeah, exactly right. Like he's like in the show, he's like reading Machiavelli, right? Which is like basically intentionally letting the audience know that he is the character you think he is from the comics. Like not just because when we saw him in Civil War, it was a different iteration of the character. Right. Even a lot of his reasoning for doing certain things was a little bit different. But they're letting you know in this series, this is the Baron Zemo from comics. It might be the MCU spin on it. But it is Baron Zemo. He's this rich royal, from Sokovia who is, he's got some depth to him and some things we are yet to, have learned.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see how that continues to roll out. The other big question for me is what the freak is up with Sharon Carter? Right?
I think I'm gonna go out and give my theory. I think she actually could be the power broker.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Do you think she could be the bad guy? Power broker? So you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
Yep, I think that's going to be one of the twists. But again,
yep.
Who knows? But it seemed a little too. I don't know. There was just while watching it,
it seems a little bit too obvious.
Yeah,
which is what is making me go maybe not.
And the fact that like she agreed to work with Sam and Bucky because like, hey, maybe I could get you pardoned in the U.S. because of the whole thing that happened, and like Infinity War and Endgame and all that stuff. So I'm wondering, like, in the meantime, she's like, she became the power broker and now is making, the super soldiers and all that stuff. But that would drastically change her character in the MCU, though. You would make her, and then that would be, but it would be crazy that if like they reveal her like she's the actual villain. You know what I mean? And she's like, yeah, because this, and this, you guys got pardoned. You guys were gallivanting around. I'm over here in hiding, and the U.S. wants to freaking lock me up. So she would have motives, like they forgot about her to do it. So
it would explain why she was why she's after the super soldier serum. Say that 5 times real fast.
Yeah, it would.
But it would explain that because she was so close to Cap. Right? She may think like, hey, we need people like him.
Yep.
Because they also saw what they did to Cap after the Accords and everything like that. So that could be a motive there. So it's definitely a possibility.
And then Sam by the end becomes Captain America, taking back the shield. And then John Walker becomes U.S. agent in the black and red costume, and they battle freaking Sharon Walker, who's the power broker.
Could you imagine? That would be crazy. I do love that the Winter Soldier told Sam straight up, like, if you don't take the shield back, I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'm going to. I loved that.
I would love to see that too. Because, I've been an advocate for Bucky being Captain America from the beginning, even though, like, I think I said on the first episode of us talking about this series that, like, I get it doesn't make sense. He's got, like, the PTSD stuff. He's not in the headspace, but it would still be cool to see him throwing around the shield for a little bit. I'd take what I could get.
For real, yeah, it would. It would, but I just loved that because I don't think it's going to come to that. I think Sam's going to take up the shield and all that. But I love that he basically says like, no, the shield means something, and he's basically telling him like it does not belong in that guy's hands. It meant something to Steve. It meant something to everyone. And if you don't go take it back, I will. I just loved that whole bit. So I really enjoyed that. But there's one other thing. There's one other big thing that has stood out to me about this that I'm wondering if you also have noticed. And it's that several of the big things that they have introduced in this series and introduced into the MCU for the very first time, like Madripoor, like the Princess Bar, like Smiling Tiger. These are all things that are directly tied to the X-Men universe. All of them. Whether it's New Mutants.
Which is definitely intentional because we already know that the X-Men is coming. I mean, they even have a leaked title for the X-Men movie that they're working on, The Mutants or whatever it was called. So clearly intentional. I mean, Feige is a very smart guy with this, and he's the reason why this universe is so successful. So, yeah, I think this is his way of prepping and getting us ready for it.
Well, they did, and the reason it stands out to me is because they already did some of this with WandaVision as well, right? They already greased some
Fantastic
skids.
Four.
Yep, for Fantastic Four and X-Men in WandaVision. So they're moving much faster on the X-Men front. At least paving some road for the X-Men than I thought they were going to, because I mean, again, there's some major, like Madripoor alone is a major piece of X-Men lore.
It's curious with these Disney Plus shows, because like I wonder like if it just seems like it's moving faster because we're getting so much content, right? Where we would only get like 2 or 3 movies a year. But with these episodes, like we got 3 episodes in, that's already like a 3-hour movie. You know what I mean? And we still got more to go. So it's like we're just getting so much more content that they're able to do this a lot more often. So things now can move a lot quicker. You know what I mean? So they won't have to wait 2 years to put it in this movie and that movie to then finally do it in this movie. Now they got the shows that are coming out like seemingly every other month, and they could introduce new things within like a year really quick. You know what I mean? Than have it in a movie or whatever they want to do with it, which I think is one of the pluses to Disney Plus, that they could set up a lot more things, which I think they're clearly doing, because when you look at their slate, you got like Armor Wars, Secret Invasion, like all this crap. We still got Moon Knight coming. There's actually footage of Oscar Isaac training for Moon Knight, which is freaking awesome. You see him doing some cool fight moves.
Did you watch that footage, by the way?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really freaking cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
I was like, holy crap, man.
So
he is not effing around, as the kids say.
No, and he's actually doing, a good portion of the stunts. So it's going to be really, really fun to see how the MCU pans out, even to, for next coming years. But I would even say just the rest of the year. So we got a lot of stuff still coming, man. It's like crazy. Black Widow's coming out.
Right.
Loki's still coming out.
In the game.
I think Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Spider-Man 3. Like there's so much stuff. It's insane. It's crazy.
It is. I'm really curious with this one, because we're in, this series is what we're in the middle of now. I'm just watching it and I'm like, man, I wonder what this is going to feed into directly. Like, or are they just going to use this to kind of, to tip off a whole bunch of stuff? You know what I mean? Because WandaVision was like, we knew that was feeding directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And it's got, there's other ramifications, obviously, because they did some massive, massive stuff with that show. But with this one, it's just kind of like it's touching on so many different things. And I'm just kind of like, is this going to feed into one particular area, or is this just going to kind of buckshot add a whole bunch of stuff to the MCU going forward,
Yeah, I'm excited, and I feel like they're, well, I don't know if I say I feel, but I'm kind of hoping like they don't even tie into something that's already been announced. Like by the end of this series, they pull a Mandalorian season 2 and just announce a whole new show or a new direction, where like what they did with the Book of Boba Fett, where it's like, what? Like that, to me, I just want to keep seeing that now, because I feel like that was the most brilliant way to just drop a show, was with the post-credit scene at the end of another show. So I'm not saying I necessarily want them to do that, but maybe just set something up where it's like, a new path, and it could lead to its, another Captain America movie that's starring Sam Wilson as Captain America, maybe, and that's like another movie that now we see coming out in 2023 or something like that. So very, very curious.
Be very interesting to see. I really want Sam Wilson, Captain America, to get his own movie.
Oh, that would be really cool. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah. And with him and with Bucky as like his second, that would be great. They could do some really cool stuff with that. They need to keep that going as long as possible, because they're an amazing team.
I think they're going to it. They noticed that from Civil War, because that's obviously where like it blew up with that whole banter between them and them fighting Spider-Man at the airport. That was like the first like, oh, this is the best like combo ever. Let's give him a show.
Right. Yeah, I mean, dude, remember how like the scene at the very end of the episode where they get in the car and Bucky's in the front seat this time?
Yes.
As opposed to back in Civil War, and he says, "You're not going to move the seat up, are you?" Sam says it, and he's like, "Nope."
Anyway, sticking in the Marvel world, though, Tim, it finally ended. Probably my favorite Marvel event. And probably your favorite Marvel event, too, I would guess, in recent years.
Easily, yeah. Easily, this is my favorite, yeah.
King in Black. It's done. It's over. It's in the world. Finale.
It has wrapped up, concluded.
Yes.
Donny Cates did not let us down. I will say that.
Holy crap. Now, spoilers galore for this series, because you can't talk about anything cool about this finale issue without just talking about it. There's no skirting around it because everything cool you just have to say.
But this is going to be open discussion. I mean, that's kind of like if you're a regular listener of this show, all of this stuff is open conversation. It's all going to be spoiled, but we'll continue to tip it off.
We
start talking.
We constantly have newcomers, so we got to let them know. But but man, getting right into it. Issue 4. Eddie was chosen to be the new host for the Unipower, the Captain Universe, Enigma Force, whatever you want to call it.
God of Light, as they were calling
God of Light, Cosmic Venom. But yeah, and it was revealed that the Unipower is actually much like the symbiotes, where it acts in the same way. It's not a symbiote, but it's very similar in the way it works. You know what I mean? Like this, even the Venom symbiote relates to it and stuff like that. So it chose Eddie to get rid of the darkness, which would be the King in Black, Null himself. And this issue was just picked up just where 4 left off, where Eddie now is this all-powerful being, probably the most powerful hero in the Marvel Universe at this point, and is just fighting the Lord of the Abyss, the King in Black. And it is, from the start, it's just a battle. Like, this whole issue is just a battle.
Exactly.
There's obviously, a decent amount of dialogue, but it is not dialogue heavy at all. It is action packed, and you just see things.
That's been the entirety of this event. That's been one of the cool aspects of this event. It's been a battle royale right from the get.
It's so fast paced. Yeah, it's just one thing to the next.
Incredible. Yeah.
It's
just it's like battle sequence after battle sequence. It's war going on the entire time. It's like literally it's the battle from Endgame happening with side battles going on throughout. It's really crazy.
Dude, it's nuts because I just remember reading the first issue for King of Black 1, the exercise issue, and one of the big things with that was like, the Avengers, since Null is like coming down to Earth and starting attacking them and do his whole thing by blacking out the sun, the Avengers start fighting him. They're like, oh, we got our secret weapon, which was Sentry, right? And you're like, they got Sentry. This is going to be good. But Null literally just rips him in half. And you're like, what's going to happen now? And then a few pages later, like, oh, you know what's going to happen now? He possessed Celestials, and they're now covered in symbiotes. So he controls them, and now they're attacking. Just all this stuff keeps building. And the whole series is like that all the way to the end. And you keep like, how is Cates and Stegman going to top themselves? And somehow they did every issue with like, an issue or two after that. They're like, oh, well, now Thor's here. Oh, well, now Surfer's here. And just like all these things and all these battles where you're like, oh, well, this person could surely match them. Nope. Okay. Oh, well, then not that person. Then obviously Silver Surfer can beat them. No, that person. And they just keep going and going until you come to like the God of Light, which makes all the sense in the world, because what could beat the dark? The light, you know what I mean? So it just makes all the sense. And this is just crazy, because in issue 5, it starts off with Silver Surfer and Null like having a freaking Western standoff, right? And Null's basically like, yo, what are you gonna do? Haven't I met you before? And I'm not impressed. And they're just, kind of talking. And he's like, Surfer's telling him, yeah, we're probably going to lose, but we're not going to do it alone. And then you get this big splash page of the Avengers with Captain America doing, the ever famous line, Avengers assemble. And they go to charge and all, like, this is our last hoorah, whether we're going to win or not. We're going for it. But freaking a big like blast comes in and lands between them. And on the next page, we see that it's the God of Light, aka Eddie Brock Venom, now with the Unipower in him. He's like got the light radiating from his eyes, his mouth, his spider emblem, and he's like, guys, I appreciate it, but go help the civilians. This is gonna be one-on-one, me and Null. And then like one of the coolest things in the entire book, I'm probably gonna be harping on this the rest of the episode, but this is like the coolest thing I feel for me. He freaking Venom puts his hand out right towards Thor and Surfer, and calls Mjolnir and Surfer's board to him.
Yeah.
And is now holding Mjolnir in his right hand and the board in his left hand, who, by the way, the board has now been turned into a gigantic, like, Final Fantasy size sword because Surfer did that prior.
Freaking ridiculous.
Just this comics all kinds of crazy. So now he's got this Silver Surfer's board that's now a gigantic sword and Mjolnir in his other hand. He's able to wield Mjolnir, but he's like, that you think would be enough, right? You're like, okay, well now I get to see Venom freaking fight Null.
Silver Surfer turning himself into freaking Highlander. Yeah.
It's like, I get to see freaking Venom fight Null with Thor's hammer and Surfer's board that's now a sword. This is going to be freaking awesome. But he starts doing this weird like spinny thing with the weapons, and you're like, what the? Like, you don't really realize what's happening. You're like, oh, maybe he's just spinning them really, really fast, like attack. On the next page, we get this double page spread where we see Eddie has merged this thing into like an 8-foot battle axe that's like
freaking crazy,
possessed with fiery light, becoming what, we could only assume is like now the most powerful weapon in the Marvel Universe, because it's literally Mjolnir and Silver Surfer's board in one that is now a battle axe, Tim. It's a battle axe. And it's like
crazy.
It's taller and bigger than Venom himself. It's insane. Like it's the coolest thing. And then obviously at this point, like he just starts going ham on freaking Null the whole time. Like there's there's no, it's just like he says
on
stuff.
Everything and everyone.
No joke.
It was unreal.
Like, because the rest of the issue, there's dialogue, but the dialogue is basically Venom / Eddie being like, yeah, your time is done. You ain't gonna beat me. Like Null gets desperate, so he summons All Black, which is his Necro Sword, which by the way, is also one of the most powerful weapons in all of Marvel. We literally put it in our top 10 most powerful weapons episode for Marvel. So there's that. But Eddie just catches it with one hand and disintegrates it. Obliterates the freaking thing. Yeah. It's like, what is happening? Like that in itself, I feel like we can make an episode about, because it's like, people who don't understand these weapons and know the lore of them might just be like, oh, that's cool. But it's like, no, if you know anything about the lore of Marvel, that's insane. He literally obliterated a sword. Hear me. He obliterated a sword that gods fear. It's one of its names is literally called the God Slayer. It kills gods, celestials. Exactly. Galactus is scared of it. Ego the Living Planet is scared of it. Like all these things. And he caught it with one hand and then just like wished it away, so to speak. Like it was like the craziest thing. It's just, and I'm so like the fact that Cates and Stegman are doing all this, like, again, it's just the act, like the art is telling the story for the most
Without
part,
a doubt,
right? And it's just, and you just get it. You're like, they're just doing cool things where you're like, if you're a big Marvel fan or Venom fan, you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Because you're like, I can't believe he just did that. I can't believe he just did that.
I know.
And it just keeps going, like, because as the issue keeps going, then Venom pins Null down on the ground, and Venom's like, Null's like, yeah, well, you don't know the darkness as well as I do, boy. And then freaking has the Celestial controls break through the wall to grab Eddie. But then on the next page, without even like a thought or hesitation, Eddie takes his newly formed battle axe and slices the head off of Celestial like it's not even a fight. Like it goes from the hand out to grab him to the next page, you see the head coming off. Like it's not, I just love,
like it was nothing.
Right. And I know some people like may not like it and stuff like that just because it's like, it's so like flippantly easy for him and stuff like that. But I think that's what's so cool, because they've been built like literally we had 4 issues of our heroes throwing everything at Null and nothing worked. The new like All-Father Thor didn't work. Yep. Sentry didn't work. Like Silver Surfer, like nothing was working for 4 issues, 4 months. So by the time you hit issue 5, I'm like, no, yeah, now's the time to see like, Eddie finally come to his peak power and just tear shop. Like for me, I don't know, about other people, but I know you're like me. At this point, you just want to see like the hero wreck shop, because we already know
exactly
Null has defeated countless heroes already. So now it's time to be like, get the flip of it and see an entire issue of our hero like, okay, well now I got the power, so it's payback. You know what I mean? And it's just so cool. And by the end, like another cool thing, because I could keep going and going. We did a full episode breaking the whole issue down. But like by the end, Eddie takes Null into space, throws him in the sun, because again, what can kill the darkness? The sun. What is the sun? A ball of freaking light. So he throws him in there and seemingly kills Null once and for all. And
he just kind of dissolves.
Right? And he's melting his face like on the way there, because he flies him to space, because he's like threatening him and saying, well, your son still has the darkness in him. And he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to melt your face with my new power, blah, and like literally spits light on his face. Like, like all this crazy. It's just the most comic book fun, action-packed thing ever. And then by the end, obviously everyone could assume what's going to happen. Eddie becomes the new god of the symbiotes. So now Eddie,
that's right,
since he freed the freaking the hive, he now all the symbiotes are like, yo, you freed us. You did what like no one could. So now they're like in debt to him. And he rules them. He's literally the Venom symbiote tells Eddie at the last page or two of the issue is like, you are now the god of the symbiotes. You are the new King in Black. So it's just like the craziest thing that it came full circle where like Eddie killed the King in Black. He now is the King in Black. And it's like, well, what is he going to do now? Like he's literally the Lord of the Abyss now. So does that mean he's going to keep staying good? Is it going to like, yeah, I would imagine so. So we're going to get like the dark fighting for good now. Like, I don't know. There's just so many places you can go. And Ryan Stegman and Cates only have one issue left, Venom issue 200.
That's right.
To set that up. And then they're leaving, which makes me so sad. So sad. So sad. But because it's like you did this awesome thing and you're setting up this awesome, you literally made freaking Eddie Brock the god of the symbiotes, the new King in Black. And you're going to set it up to where like kind of allude to where it's going, but then you're just going to leave. I mean, I would imagine there's no way Marvel's going to let them leave. Maybe they're leaving the main Venom title because they're getting a brand new Venom related book, maybe.
Right.
I gotta hope in my nerdy heart that that's what's happening. Because man, we've been saying on the podcast a lot that Cates has not even just with Venom, but like across the board with Marvel but his Thor and Venom stuff in particularly have been like so good that I'm like, phenomenal. Man, why would you leave? Like, I get you've been on the book for like 2 years. So I like get it from like a career standpoint, but it's like, please no. From a fan standpoint, it's like, come on, keep going.
Right.
So I'm just curious.
And the other thing about it is it's not just, why would you leave? It's the understanding of like, man, somebody's got to pick up all of this.
I know, right? The daunting task,
and it's
right?
like, yeah, what man, the shoes to fill on these storylines, and they set up so many new things. And that's what was one of the most fascinating and really fun aspects of the King in Black series, particularly the end here, where we saw, the Unipower and, the God of Light turn. Like he's done on so many other things, he dramatically expanded the mythos of the Unipower.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Of what it is, and it's how powerful it actually is, and what it's capable of doing through an entity. So there's so many different things that they built on. What he did with Venom, where he left Venom off, right? And like, where is that? How is he going to wrap that up, or where is he going to leave that in Venom 200, right? So there's all these things that and he's doing the same thing with Thor.
Oh yeah, right? With the Black Winter and all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And he's already told us, I am far from being done. You all aren't even ready for how not done I am with the Black Winter. So he's going to continue building on all of these things. And it's like, now others have to come along and pick these stories up and do something with all of this new, these new storylines and these new expansions of mythos and so forth. And it leaves you kind of, as a fan, it leaves you a little bit nervous because it's been in such good hands thus far that you're like, man, I would just hate to see any of this get left undone or unfulfilled in any way, because so much of this stuff is so entertaining and so fun. And like we both said right at the outset, it's some of the best stuff we've seen from Marvel in years, in our opinion.
Dude, yeah, it's because, going back to that, like Cates literally is the one who reformed Venom's mythos in its entirety, right? Like he introduced that there even was a god of the symbiotes. He's the one who introduced that, the species, the Clintar species for the symbiotes, their planet wasn't actually a planet, but a prison for Null, where he was at the core. And that was the whole thing where like Null's been trying to get out all these years, and he finally did, which, led to King in Black and all that stuff. So literally from issue 1, he's been reshaping and introducing all this stuff into the Venom universe. And not even just Venom, I would say Spider-Man, because obviously Spider-Man is, Venom only exists because of Spider-Man, and Cates got to explore Carnage as well in the Absolute Carnage event, which was another great event from 2019, I believe. And then he went to this. Right. So like he's doing all this stuff. The only thing that would make me feel happy is like if he went to Spider-Man somehow. Now I know Nick Spencer's doing a great job with Spider-Man, but that, like, because it's one of those things where he's like their it guy, right? Like I don't think there's any arguing that he's probably like their hottest writer right now, like Marvel's hottest writer. So it's like, once you've done Thor, you've done Venom, and you've done it so successfully. Guardians of the Galaxy, he did that incredible Thanos run. Once you've done several like smash hits back to back, you gotta, you have to assume he could name a character. Marvel's like, yeah, you know what I mean. So if he wants Spider-Man or something like that, you gotta imagine they're gonna be like, sure, yeah, because he sells books. So
especially if he's in any way, if anyone from DC is trying to lure him over, or any other imprints, that are looking like they may even pick up some of the DC titles in a licensing deal. You know what I'm saying? If there's any whiff of that, you have to imagine that they're basically saying you have carte blanche. What do you want?
For sure. Because he's one of those writers, like you say, he's doing like Captain America. Like any book he's on at this point, I'm going to at least check out the first several issues. And they're probably going to be good. Like, because he has it.
Without a doubt,
yeah. So it's really crazy. I hope whoever takes over Venom or whatever the future is, they haven't really announced yet. It's kind of like a Tynan scenario where you had Scott Snyder on Batman for so many years, like what, 5 years or something like that, where then, it went to Tom King, which was very polarized, right, for his run, but then it ended up to Tynan more recently and currently, who most people are like, yeah, this is great, So I'm hoping it's like one of those scenarios where whoever gets it next, it's at least like, oh yeah, no, this is you're just giving us really good stories still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, without question. I just want to believe I'm going to be very optimistic about, it being left in good hands. Donny Cates, I have to imagine he's going to pass the baton in a way that makes sense to where he's just like, hey, this would be, I don't know that he's going to have any input, but I have to imagine that they're going to ask him.
Well, because he's not
that there's going to be some input of who would be a good choice to pick up from where he leaves off.
Because he's still currently doing Thor, and from my knowledge, he hasn't announced when he's falling off the book. I mean, maybe he has.
I mean, he just started it. It's only 13, 14 issues in.
13, 14 issues in, right? And he's on what, issue 34 of Venom? So he did Venom for over 2 years. So I would imagine he's got at least another year or so left with Thor, if the Venom title run is any indication. So, I just, all I know is wherever Cates goes, I'm going to follow. That's all I know.
Yeah, he is definitely building a pretty solid legacy for himself as a writer.
For sure.
And a storyteller. And for me, the biggest thing is, man, I'm just so happy to see, kind of just the stuff he's built on inside of Marvel, because both of us we're big DC fans, but we're also Marvel fans.
Yeah, big Marvel
everybody
fans.
tries to pick a side. We like both. So I am a big fan of Marvel,
especially
and many of their characters and storylines. So to see them building on this, the entire King in Black story event was just a ton of fun. They had so many great breakout, even, from one shots to miniseries. They had a couple of the Prelude miniseries, one of which we covered on the show on Symbiote Spider-Man. That was a really fun breakout Prelude miniseries by Peter David, actually, who did a really good job of that, where we got a tease that not an actual necessarily new Guardians of the Galaxy, but they hinted at like this really unlikely new team, right? That was just a lot of fun to watch. They did some fun stuff with that. But you had the Namor series, which I actually haven't had a chance to read yet, but it is on my list because I've heard it's very good. Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one. No, there's been a lot, like, the Black Panther one was really good, where the symbiotes invaded Wakanda.
Yes, Black Panther we covered.
Planet of the Symbiotes, which we covered, which was really good. There's been a lot. The Gwenom one, which we covered, was really good too. I mean, it's crazy. Like,
there was a ton.
There was a bunch. Like, it was kind of like metal or death metal in that sense, where like every book in Marvel's roster was like was tying in. But the shocking thing was, I didn't read them all, but I read a good chunk, and all the ones we covered and the ones that I personally read, I like them. Like, like obviously I like certain ones more than the other, but I don't think out of any of the ones I personally read could say any of them were bad or not good. Like, they were all entertaining and fun. Like, so it's
all of the tie-ins to the storyline that they were focused on was a great ad. It was a fun story,
which is rare.
And it was just
Like that doesn't happen much with tie-ins. Like it's for tie-ins to be like fun and good. Like that's not a thing that happens much. It's sad to say, but it's more so than not kind of like a money grab a little bit. So
without a doubt, yeah. But without a doubt.
But so to have like most of the titles, at least all the ones I read, really solid is a very welcome surprise.
Without any question. And that was for me an indicator of really strong leadership at the top of the overall story event, right?
Like the head editor?
Gates. Exactly. They had a really good plan going in. They had built up a lot of different story elements that led us into King in Black, right? And then they had a really strong through line and a known endpoint. This is where what we're going to do with it. This is where we want to go. And they stuck to that. And they used all of the available pieces just really well. And I mean, they roped in stuff like Sword and Thunderbolts and the Marauders.
Dude, like everything.
You know what I'm saying?
Like
everything, right? They had a little bit of everything, but everything played a nice role that added to it. I mean, look at the role that Black Knight played.
Black Knight
in the overall story
with his ebony blade and all that stuff. They hinted to it in the past,
and how they just drew that stuff out of the mythos of all these different characters, and they just used all of these pieces, and they really dug into the toy box, the Marvel toy box, in such a fun way. I was very, very impressed by this event, and I can only hope that he utilizes Thor to even further build off of what he's done the last few years, and then maybe we will get another Marvel wide event that wraps around that.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, while talking it out here, I'm wondering if that's why he's leaving, because he did his big thing with Venom. So now maybe since he's doing Thor, he's setting up a big event for Thor that we're gonna get late this year, early next year.
That's my hope. That's my hope of what he's talking about the Black Winter.
Yeah, he said he's not done with the Black Winter, so maybe that's gonna be like, the next big event for Marvel, because they haven't really announced the next big event. King of Black just finished this past week, so it's like they got to announce something soon. They got to have another event. That's what kind of shapes the entire year for this publishers.
And for any of you who aren't aware of what we're talking about with the Black Winter, the Black Winter is a new entity that was introduced by Cates in the Thor title, and there were kind of the few things that built up to it. But he fully introduced it in the Thor title, and this is an extremely powerful being. Okay, it dwarfed Galactus. So just to give you an idea of the universe-wide, the universal threat that this character is, so you could easily build a massive event, and especially because, again, he said, you all aren't even ready for how not done I am with this character, because it appeared to us in Thor issue, was it 4 or 5?
Around there.
I can't remember. Yeah, somewhere around there. But the Black Winter Thor had destroyed the Black Winter, but not because it's comics.
Well, yeah, because comics. Point in case, though, like just to summarize that up, like the Black Winter's herald is Galactus. Like that. Exactly. Like that's how to show you his power. Like usually Galactus is the one with the heralds. Yeah, no. Galactus is the herald to the Black Winter. So that should tell you like his sheer power right there.
and that's so fun, man. It's just all been, for me, it's brought a lot of the fun back to the Marvel comic universe. And that's been really fun.
I say it all the time, but like I am openly by now like a Cates fanboy, because it's just so much fun, and that's what comics should be. Like it is just fun. Like again with the finale to King in Black, one of the coolest things that happened. He's like like us fans, he's like, it'd be really cool if someone took Mjolnir and Surfer's Board and merged them together. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. And I'm like, yes, Donnie, that would be amazing. And he did it. So he does all these things. Like, it'd be cool if a symbiote, possessed a Celestial. Wouldn't that be dope? And it's like, yes, it would be dope. And then he does it. It's like the coolest thing. And then he does this with Thor and all that stuff. It's like, just... I love how he just has that like that 10-year-old mindset that we all do. It's like, can you imagine if like Superman had like Spider-Man's wall sticking ability, but Bruce Wayne's like money, and he had, what I mean? Just like these crazy things, and he just makes them work where you're like, yeah, for sure. I want to see that.
Obviously.
Yeah. I feel like with the Galactus thing, he's like, it's like the question, it's like, well, if God made God, who made God? And then who made that God and who made that God? So he was like, well, if Galactus is super powerful and he always has heralds, who's he the herald of? And so he's like, Black Winter. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like he's asking like these, questions we like to think about with our friends and then just doing it. It's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, and he's like, it's like my type of thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Because you know me, I love these like these rabbit trails. Mm-hmm. And you kind of going into wormholes and following, thought trails to where it leads. I love that stuff, especially when it comes to storytelling. It's just one of my favorite things. And he has just done a really good job with that. And as you were just saying, and my biggest point about him is that he's made Marvel Comics really fun again. Mm-hmm. And so for that, thank you, Mr. Cates. Good job.
Thank you. Yes.
And we've got some stuff coming up here. We are going to get a taste of where a lot of this stuff might be spinning out. Like we were saying, we're wondering, and leaves you as a fan a little nervous about how is a lot of this going to get picked up and where's it going to go from here and all of that. We're going to start seeing some of that pretty rapidly. We've already got, Simon Spurrier he's already taken up the Black Knight, which is going to continue past the King in Black event. Mm-hmm. You've got the Mighty Valkyries. Jason Aaron is taking that up. That's about going to kick off here pretty soon,
good
actually.
Old Jason Aaron.
And that's going to be picking up off of a lot of the stuff in King in Black. Same thing with Beta Ray Bill. That's a series that just started with Daniel Johnson. So we're going to start getting a feel for some of these stuff pretty quick of like, where is this going to go? What are they going to do with it? And of course, Cates is still on Thor and he's yet to wrap up Venom. He's got one more issue left, as you said. So, I'm in a really good place with my feelings about Marvel Comics. So I'm really kind of just like, I want to see where it goes. And there's a little bit of trepidation there, but I'm going to be optimistic because it's in a really good place right now.
For sure. So I think, once that issue drops, we're going to be right here to talk about that. Cause I need to know how he's going to leave Venom and where he's leaving Venom.
Oh yeah. And again, I have to imagine that issue is going to springboard something.
For sure. Maybe it's going to announce his next book or event. Maybe it sees him. Maybe he collides with Thor or something like that because Thor's pissed that he stole his hammer for a brief time.
Could you imagine, dude, if Donny Cates got lured by DC? Could you imagine?
What? I mean, you would have to give him like
if they gave him like the Justice League.
Yeah, I was going to say you would have to give him something like Batman, Superman, or the Justice League.
Yeah, like something that could affect the entire universe.
Man, it's only really a matter of time. I guess, because I don't know. Maybe.
I guess it depends on what happens with DC, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where he's doing so good with Marvel. It's like, why would he leave right now? But you never know in the future.
Yeah. But I would be really curious to see what he does with some of the Marvel universe or the DC universe.
Dude, I would like to see him on like a Shazam book or like Martian Manhunter. Because he's done like, that's like kind of how.
Well, that's a little biased there because those are some of your favorite characters.
They are, but they're characters that are known, but like that if someone did it right would become extremely popular. Like everyone knew who Venom was. And people were reading his book, but it wasn't nearly as talked about as it was until he started getting on it. Like once he got on Venom, it became like one of the best-selling books every month. You know what I mean? So I would love him to bring like a character like Shazam or Martian Manhunter or Dr. Fate to like, top 10 selling books.
Dr. Fate would be a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great one. See, the one that I had in mind is that I would love to see him take up the Lanterns.
Oh, the Green Lanterns?
Yeah, because of that. I mean, there's such a depth of mythos there already, but there's also so many different things that you could do with it, right? Because it's a huge toy box to play with.
It's a massive toy box to play with.
And it would be universe wide in terms of its effect. Same thing with Aquaman. If he took up Aquaman,
curious.
You know what I mean? Something like that. Something very similar to what Jeff Johns did. That's, I think, why Jeff Johns wanted both of those two worlds inside the DC universe, is because there's so many different possibilities because the implications of those worlds are vast.
Yeah, Jeff Johns literally made Aquaman cool. He was the guy who did it.
Exactly right.
He doesn't just ride a seahorse.
Cates could pick up right from that.
Either way, man, I'm just really excited to see. Again, I know I'm like a broken record over here, but I just want to read Venom 200. I need to know because the cover, you see Venom sitting on his throne with the freaking Necro sword and his big old dragon wings with all the symbiotes around him, being like, "My master!"
Symbiotes everywhere.
Yeah, so I need to know.
Yeah, man. The King in Black.
I need to know. But on that note, Tim, I think that brings today's podcast to a close.
Yeah, all good things today,
all good
man.
Things,
all good things. Feeling good.
Yes.
Had some good, the last couple of weeks, we had some good stuff going on. I'm happy about it.
Next week, you haven't watched the Kong or Godzilla vs. Kong yet, so we did.
I have not, which is, that's why, for any of you wondering, that's why we haven't talked about it, because I haven't seen it yet.
That's why we have not mentioned it.
You got caught up. You watched the entire series, and then you watched the new one. I just finished last night, actually. I just watched King of Monsters last night, so I'm actually going to go see Kong Godzilla this weekend, and we'll talk about it next week.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Next week we will talk about it, and you know, maybe in depth, maybe not in depth. Depends how my mouth feels, because remember, wisdom teeth.
It may be later in the week is what we're saying. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to just have a sloshing, drooling Arris all over the microphone.
In any case, guys, we'll talk to you next time when we talk about all things comics.